Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's good to be with you on a Tuesday. What a glorious day, right? To be alive, to be above the mud, and to be enjoying this wonderful place we call home, this wonderful place we call Central Virginia, Charlottesville, Albemarle County. I love it here. I love connecting with you guys through this platform. I love passing along information that maybe you've heard, and we take a deeper dive on that information or introduce you to a new nonprofit that's making the community better. We're going to do that today with the Ivy Creek Foundation. We have an executive director, Sue Erhardt, the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation, on the show today. We did a test Skype with her before the show started to check the audio-visual connection, the internet connection. And I'll tell you what, her bubbly personality and her zest for life was radiating through the computer screen here. So I'm excited for you, for those that don't know her, to meet Sue today on the program as we spotlight the Ivy Creek Foundation, a nonprofit that's certainly making Central Virginia better. We'll welcome Alex Urpí to the show in the 1 o'clock hour, the CEO of Emergent Financial Services. The governor of Virginia closed of business this past Friday. He pretty much hosted a press conference that was very hastily done. And he said, look, we're going to release the hounds. Masks are no longer needed. The question I'm going to ask you, by doing this in the bottom of the ninth inning and not giving warning or a heads up to mom and pops, to medium-sized businesses, to big box brands, did the governor not give a market edge or a market advantage to the Targets, the Starbucks, the Walmarts, and the Costcos, who have the deep financial resources to pivot on a dime, to change their strategy on a dime? You know, a mom and a pop, I was talking with the CFO of a brewery, and I'm not going to say who the CFO was or which brewery it was, but it's a big-time brewery here in Central Virginia. And this guy said, look, for 13 months, Jerry, we've been doing things one way. And with 7-hour heads up, Friday close of business, with the new rules and regulations going into effect midnight on Saturday, so 7 hours from the 5 o'clock press conference to midnight when the mask ordinance was removed, the CFO of the brewery locally said, look, this really puts us in a bind. He took away 13 months of strategy, protocol, and planning, and he gave us 7 hours to pivot on a dime, and he did it right before graduation weekend, when we have back-to-back graduation weekends. Remember, this past weekend, it was the 2020 graduation in Charlottesville. So we'll talk about that with Alex Urpí. We'll talk inflation as well. A friend of mine, in between Real Talk, and Real Talk is the show we do Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 with Keith Smith. In between Real Talk and I Love CVille, we were talking inflation, and the crystal ball prediction is potentially, $4 a gallon gasoline on the near horizon with rising inflation due to supply chains that are really tight and constrained. So we'll talk this. Inflation now is not a demand issue. It's a supply issue. I'll let the really smart man, Alex Urpí, explain that to you on the program. We have Mayor Walker news to get to. Mayor Walker hosted a Facebook Live yesterday. We'll replay some of the highlights from the Facebook Live, including her announcement on whether or not she will run for Charlottesville City Council as an independent this election cycle. So that topic we're going to lead with on the show. Judah Wickhauer is our fantastic director, and he's got sound from her Facebook Live yesterday that we're going to pass along. Before I play the sound from Mayor Walker's Live yesterday, I'll kind of set the stage for you. This is probably the most important election I will say in the history of Charlottesville, Virginia. You're going to have to deal with statue removal, school reconfiguration, a city manager hire, who the long-term city manager is going to be. You have a municipality coming out of COVID, so it's almost like brand new beginnings for the city of Charlottesville after 14 months of ice of quarantine with this pandemic. You got this West Main streetscape, you got a parking garage, you got tough relationships with Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville, you got affordability issues big time in Charlottesville. Who's feeling the pinch of affordability in this town, guys? I mean, menu prices, gasoline prices, rents, home values, all of it's going up. I'll straight up say this is the most important election in the history of Charlottesville as we get, right off the heels of August 12, 2017. I mean, heck, guys, we're not even 4 years removed from 8/12, right? We got 2 spots up for grabs. Heather Hills announced that she is not running again. Mayor Walker has not committed either way, but she did do a Facebook Live yesterday and gave herself a deadline. Judah Wickhauer, my friend, do you have the first segment, the 056 to 137 clip? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Judah. Judah Wickhauer is the compass, the North Star of the show. He's the director. So why don't we play the sound, tag a friend, let them know. You guys should probably hear this. I'm going to play 2 clips from Mayor Walker's Facebook Live yesterday. Neither of the clips has been in the news yet, TV, print, radio, none of them. After this show, which is live on every social media platform humanly possible, Bluetoothing in people's cars through Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, after we play these next 2 clips, you'll see this story in the traditional media cycle. So, you ready? Mayor Nakia Walker, will you run for re-election in the city of Charlottesville? Judah Wickhauer in 3, 2, and 1.
So the reality is that I haven't made a decision about campaigning, running again. And I'm giving myself, as I was sitting here about to log on, because that's generally how things work in my life, until Friday, this Friday, and because I'll probably just say something because I'm talking. But I think giving myself a deadline on Facebook Live will be very helpful. So I'm going to give myself until this Friday. I'll come on this Friday around the same time to let you all know what the decision is.
So she's given herself a deadline of this Friday around this time. We'll follow that closely. I think that's news that's been unreported. Deadline is this Friday for announcement. I'm going to play another longer clip from her Facebook Live where she discusses the difficulty of serving this community. Before I play that longer clip, I want to compliment Mayor Walker on a nice haircut. She got a fresh haircut. It looked really, really good. So compliments to you, Mayor Walker, on the haircut. I thought you looked pretty, and I thought it was very nicely done. And I appreciate also, Mayor Walker, the information on kind of what you're thinking and being transparent as we head to what I think is the most important election in the history of the city. The Democratic primary is the 8th of June. Carl Brown, Juan Diego Wade, and Brian Pinkston. There's 3 guys on the Democratic ticket. That list of 3 will be whittled down to 2 as the primary picks 2 people to go to the general election. When 2 people are sent to the general election, I'm a betting man, I'm an entrepreneur. I think Juan Diego Wade is a lock for council. I think the second spot is up for grabs. I think Juan is going to come out of the primary, and then the second spot between Brian Pinkston and Carl Brown is going to be a toss-up. Time will tell. Whoever comes out of the Democratic primary will be challenged by Yaz Washington and potentially Mayor Nakia Walker. Now, here's a longer clip from her Facebook Live where she discusses the difficulty of serving the Charlottesville community as a black woman in 2021. My friend Judah Wickhauer, do you have that sound ready to go? Yeah. Let's play that, my friend, in 3, 2, 1.
But that I didn't know in 2017 that is how much, how people would dig in. Even the people who you don't think will dig in. When they want to prove you wrong, or when they want you to be wrong, or when they don't like you being right. I know I'm not the first person to go through it. I'll tell you that what I am struggling with the most is what happens to this community after me. I'm not the end all be all. I do think the black woman is God, but that's a whole nother thing. We can get to that a whole nother, I was poetic a couple months back and people couldn't handle that, so they probably really can't handle me saying that the black woman is God, but whatever. I really think that there's so much more, so many other ways that I can be impactful in this life. And I'm thinking about life in a way that I haven't thought about it before since December. And
2 sound bites from a 28-minute Facebook Live that's archived on our page. The first, certainly news for the Charlottesville and Central Virginia region. We have a Friday deadline, about lunchtime, about this time, for a decision to be made for the top elected official in the city of Charlottesville, and whether or not she's going to run again for a potential 4-year term in this municipality. We'll follow that closely on the I Love CVille show. As we've said many times on the network, we're heading into the most important election this municipality has seen, perhaps ever. Now, I want to slide the politics to the side for now, and I want to introduce you to a nonprofit that I think is just absolutely fantastic. The nonprofit is the Ivy Creek Foundation. It's a nonprofit conservation management organization that is concerned with both the cultural and natural stewardship of the properties under its care. Sue is going to join us, the executive director, Sue Erhardt, in about 2 or 3 minutes on the show. One of the things that I've been trying to do with the I Love CVille Network is to bring information to you that you otherwise may not know. A good example is what we did yesterday with Biscuit Run Park. We let you know Biscuit Run Park is 1,200 acres. We let you know Biscuit Run Park is right in the urban ring. We let you know if you combined Walnut Creek Park and Pretty Creek Park and you added those two, they still would be smaller, the combination, than Biscuit Run Park. We gave you the history of Biscuit Run, from potential development to Commonwealth bailout to the 99-year lease with Albemarle County. And we asked a very straightforward question on this network. Why do we have 1,200 acres right next to Wegmans in the urban ring on ice doing absolutely nothing? Why don't we open up the park so county residents and Central Virginians can utilize and enjoy the beauty that God has created? I think it's a straightforward and very fair question. No? In my campaign for Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, which I've highlighted that I'm running for supervisors in the Scottsville district on this network over the last couple of weeks, I said that getting Biscuit Run in its full glory and its full potential is an important aspect of what I'm going to try to do if elected. That particular park could easily, because of its location, 64 is right next to it, the bypass right across the street. Because of its location, it literally is a park that could appeal to 8, 9, 10 different counties in Central Virginia. It's right off 64, Imagine the potential of an amphitheater with some live music on a Wednesday or a Saturday or a Sunday. Maybe a joint venture, a public-private partnership with Red Light Management and Corn Capshaw, sending fantastic talent to Biscuit Run to play in this outside amphitheater, almost kind of like a trimmed-down version of Red Rocks, right? Or maybe a Virginia Beach amphitheater, smaller type version. Corn and Red Light could get the talent to come. There can be a revenue share with the county. These are incremental tax dollar opportunities, so we don't have to put more pressure on county residents and ask them for more of their hard-earned money. Biscuit Run Park could be home for soccer, could be home for running, for hiking, mountain biking. It could be an opportunity for us to go after sports tourism. Why don't we have major tournaments from a soccer, lacrosse, baseball, pickleball, and tennis standpoint in this area? Why are there not youth and their parents coming from the Mid-Atlantic to Charlottesville, to Albemarle County in Central Virginia for a 3 or 4 day soccer tournament? I grew up going to those tournaments. I grew up in Williamsburg, the son of an entrepreneur. My brother and I, we played travel soccer, and 2 or 3 times a year, we'd get in the car, we'd get in the family Volvo, we'd pack it up, and would go south to North Carolina, to Raleigh, to Charlotte, somewhere in North Carolina, and mom and dad would spend some money and we'd play soccer and then we'd leave and we'd have a good time. Why doesn't that happen more here? These are incremental opportunities. So Biscuit Run is something that I've really been trying to emphasize. Another option, another important aspect of the campaign is understanding stakeholders in Central Virginia. One of the reasons I made the announcement so early, I want to get to know the stakeholders that are committed to this community and committed to making the community better. Sue is one of these people. Judah, I'm going to reach out to her now. I'm excited for you to meet the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation and get to know what these folks are doing. J-Dubs, I have her on the line. Sue, you are live for our heat map says 5 different states right now and a handful of cities in the Commonwealth. Before we go anywhere, Sue, and talk about your phenomenal nonprofit, how about an introduction to you, Sue?
Well, thanks, Jerry. I'm so excited to be with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me. Okay. And, well, a little bit about myself. I grew up in Michigan, in northern Michigan, and then went to East Lansing and went to Michigan State and got a degree in environmental studies.
Go Spartans!
That's right. Go Green. Looking forward to football season. And so then I have a degree in environmental studies and then decided I was working in the area and actually started my career in Detroit. And so worked in Detroit trying to work with the Detroit Public Schools and help kids there raise their science scores, and had a lot of fun doing that. Doing urban conservation work. Did that for about 10 years. And then I went on to D.C., worked for an urban forestry organization and did conservation work there. Have a master's degree in environmental studies. And then I found my way to the Valley and came here about 3 years ago. And then a little over a year ago, heard about this incredible organization called the Ivy Creek Foundation. Had not heard of it, never been to the Ivy Creek natural area, and thought I'd want to share my talents here. And so now I've been here a little over a year and loving it.
This is the toughest question I'm going to ask you. How does Detroit compare to Charlottesville and Albemarle County?
Totally different. Love both of them. Totally different for different reasons. Always be a Michigander at heart, but love Detroit and what they're doing there. Doing incredible work. But also love the work here in the Charlottesville area, Albemarle County. Totally different, but both beautiful places with beautiful and wonderful people.
So you've been in the area for about a year?
Yeah, I live in Augusta County and been here for about 4 years, but been with Ivy Creek for a little over a year.
Well, on that note, how about the introduction to the Ivy Creek Foundation? You can find them online at ivycreekfoundation.org. We're streaming Sue's appearance on their Facebook page as well. I'll tell you, we already have questions for you, Sue, that we need to get to. Before we get to these questions, just give us an introduction to the foundation.
Sure. We were started in 1979, but our story really goes back to 1840 when an incredible person named Hugh Carr was born actually as an enslaved person in Albemarle County. And after emancipation, he was able to purchase a farm and create Riverview Farm, and his name is Hugh Carr. And he and his descendants, he actually was one of the largest landowning African Americans in our community at the time, and his family had this property for a century. It is now on the National Historic Registry, Riverview Farm, and it's actually part of the Ivy Creek natural area. And so the foundation was created in 1979 as the local arm nonprofit as part of that. And so our mission is really to honor the land and to bring people onto the site and learn about Riverview Farm and the incredible natural area. We have a 219-acre natural area with 7 miles of trails that never closed during the pandemic. And so you can learn about our incredible cultural and natural history just, a couple miles from downtown Charlottesville.
That's beautiful. In a nutshell, is the Ivy Creek Foundation kind of encouraging or showcasing Central Virginia and its residents how quality of life can be improved upon while being outside and enjoying everything that's green in our community. Is that it in a nutshell?
Gold star, Jerry. That's right.
Thank you, Sue. Tell me about the Ivy Creek Natural Area land and your goal to connect the community by fully integrating the unique and exceptional story of Riverview Farm into the Ivy Creek Foundation's mission, which is one of your goals that I'm reading on the website right now.
That's great. That's from our brand new strategic plan. That's great. So we actually have thousands of people who visit us every year. And the irony of the pandemic is we actually had our highest attendance rate. We were up 30% from before we were with the pandemic. Again, because we never closed. We were outside. You could social distance. And so, as you know, getting out and about is such a wonderful, healthy, physical and mental health for that. But as part of that, it's also connecting people to this incredible cultural history that we have at Riverview Farm. So it's really coming together to show people the incredible outdoors as well as the cultural history we have at our site.
30% uptick during COVID?
That's right.
That's amazing.
That's right.
I mean, it seems like a lot of the outside activities, bicycle riding is off the chain right now. Golf is finding a new life because it's outside. Tennis, pickleball finding new life. Mountain biking finding new life. A 30% uptick. How do you capture those extra eyeballs for the betterment of the foundation?
Well, doing things like this are really exciting. We also have a newsletter that people can sign up for. It's free. We don't sell your name anywhere. It's just to keep engaged with that. We have a monthly newsletter. We also have online programming. So before the pandemic, we really had hands-on programming, and we're hoping to get back to that soon. And especially this summer, we work with thousands of school kids every year, bringing them out to the site, getting them. But we also have online virtual tours that they can go to the website to do, and other programs for kids of all ages on our website.
So Jennifer Kraling is watching, and she lives in Crozet, and she says this: Jerry, thank you for having the foundation on the show. They're doing wonderful things. Please make sure you ask Sue about the money they need to keep the foundation going and how the community can get involved, in particular maintaining trails and keeping it as quality as they have done. My family enjoys hiking through these trails.
Thank you. I swear I didn't plant that. That's a
great comment. There's more like this too.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. So we are a small nonprofit, and over 50% of our donations go towards come from individuals just like that wonderful person right there. And as she said, it is all maintained we have a very small staff and hundreds of volunteers that maintain our 7 miles of trails. And we can't do it without your help. So anyone can go to the website and hit that donate button. We would love that because it goes right into the programs to maintaining the natural area, especially the trails, and then offering programs virtually and hopefully in person soon.
Spencer Carrig says, are these trails we can mountain bike? Do they have the trails online so we can find? She says no to the mountain bike because the mountain biking does some damage to the trails. And I'm not knocking mountain biking. I do love to mountain bike, but I'll tell you what, it will eat up trails.
Yeah. So we are a natural area. We are not a recreational area. If you come to our site, we do not have picnic tables. We don't even have garbage cans because we were created for this natural and cultural site. So you are welcome to come, but when you come, you have to take out your own trash. So whatever you bring, please take it with you. And it's because our site is really for people to visit and the wildlife. So we have black bears on site. We have fox. We have raccoons. We have a heron rookery that is just beautiful there. That we have a lot of birders going with their big binoculars checking out the herons right now. And so it's really for people to walk the trails. We do have for some folks who aren't able to, that have mobility issues. We do have part of a paved path that you can bring folks who need to be mobile on wheels to do that and see that. And we have a bird watching station for that area. But great question. Yeah, no mountain bikes, no dogs, fishing. It's really to view the wildlife, and whatever you bring, please take out.
Sue Erhardt's our guest. She's the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation. Multiple people asking this, and I was wondering it myself. So what I'll do for Laura and for Stephen is I'm going to paraphrase your comment because I think it's a great one, and I was wondering it myself, and I'm going to ask it in a different way to Sue. Albemarle County help in any way with the foundation? Yeah. If so, how?
So we are actually, when we were created, our site is actually owned jointly by the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Okay. And they are wonderful partners. We just feel so pleased that we are with them and work with them every day.
So funding, besides fundraising from private citizens and donors like myself and those that are watching, what are other sources of funding? How can we improve upon it? I mean, let's cut to the chase. Every nonprofit needs more money right now. It seems like Charlottesville and Albemarle County is the nonprofit capital of the East Coast. I mean, there are nonprofits on every corner in this town, and there's only so many dollars that go around, right, Sue?
I know, and there's so many worthy causes, especially now with our economy and people really hurt with COVID. I get it. You know, there are people with some really life-threatening issues out there, and we have such a generous community that we are supporting. I think that we have over 800 nonprofits in this area. But if I have to say, why should you give to us? I would say that we are helping with that community spirit and life by, providing this space where people can come and, learn about this natural area. So we do have funding from individuals. We are constantly writing grants, working with partners to do. One of our partners is actually Wild Birds Unlimited. They're a wonderful corporate sponsor. We have corporate sponsors that we work with that help us in our many programs. So any different way, I am trying to raise money to keep the wheels on the bus and keep us going virtually, so to speak. But whatever people can do, we would sure appreciate it.
Bethany is watching. She says, Jerry, I'm a mom of 3. Make sure you bring up field trips with your guests. 2 of my kids have gone on field trips at the Ivy Creek Foundation, and they have loved it. Ask your guest about field trips.
Well, we're hoping to start that relatively soon. Yeah, so we, before the pandemic, engaged with thousands of kids of all ages. We have a program called Little Naturalists, where kids who starting at 3 could come and do a walk with their families. We did thousands of school children come and see the natural area and learn about the cultural history. So yes, kids are a big part of, because as we know, kids, once they get outside and learn to love nature, they're going to grow up to be that adult that loves nature as well. So we are all about that, creating that site for them to come. And thank you so much. I love your callers. Thank you. And you're so much for your support.
Oh, they seem to love you as well. So on the website, it says Ivy Talks. Tell me about Ivy Talks.
Ivy Talks is an activity that we do primarily in the winter, and this year we moved them to virtual, but we have on a Sunday afternoon where people could go online this winter and learn about different natural and cultural sites, topics that we had pertaining to our organization, and we had a lot of fun. We had one person who looked at the historic maps and aerial photography of our geographic area and talked about how it changed from Hugh Carr's time to what it looks like today. We used to not have a reservoir, and now we have a reservoir. We didn't have Earlysville Road, and to see how the farmland changed in land management, and that was fascinating. We also did a topic on bluebirds. That was really fun, and talking about how to promote bluebird habitat in our area. And then we had our finale was talking about Riverview Farm and how we're protecting that. It's a National Historic Site, how we're trying to, have the community engaged. Working with the descendants of Riverview Farm is very important to us and how we're doing that. So if you're interested in any of those Ivy Talks, again, you can go to our website. They're recorded and you can listen to them and watch them at your leisure. So we're going to start that again in the fall, and we'll probably have a hybrid model of some will be virtual and some will be in person. And so just stay tuned. That's why you need to sign up for the newsletter so you can find out when the next one is.
ivycreekfoundation.org to sign up for that newsletter. They won't sell your information. They're only going to give you great news through that newsletter. Sue Erhardt's our guest. She's the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation. A couple of folks are asking, including myself, what is the radius of people coming to the trails and to come into the park? I mean, how far are people driving to enjoy this? Do you track that stuff?
We don't. That is a great question. I can just tell you, before the pandemic, I'd look at license plates and where were people coming from, and they were coming from all over the East Coast. And so that was really exciting to see. I hope this summer, as things are opening up, we'll see that again. But I wish I had that information. I don't, but I can just tell you that I think people from all over are coming, and word of mouth is our great way to get the word out. So please tell people about us, and we would love to have you come out and visit our site when you can.
A couple more minutes here, guys, with Sue Erhardt, Executive Director of the Ivy Creek Foundation. I'll throw this to you. How the word for 2020, it's almost turned into a cliche now, is pivot. Everyone in some word or the other had to pivot what they were doing because we were in the midst of a time that we'd never experienced before. How did you guys pivot?
Well, my staff and I were just laughing about that about a month ago, because when we closed down the buildings in March of last year, we said, we'll just grab things for a couple weeks and then we'll be back. And I'm still talking to you from the basement of my home. We're hoping to open up the building soon. So, before that, some things changed and some things didn't. So our site never closes. We're open 365 days a year unless there's a blizzard or something like that. But other than that, we are open. And so, again, we had a high turnout for people walking the trails. And, just to be serious for a second, we had people who, would write notes saying, I just lost someone due to COVID and I can't have a funeral. And so going out on your trails really helped me, work through what's going on in my life right now. And I feel so honored to be part of that journey for that person. But then other activities, we had every day of the year, we had some hands-on activities, bird walks, nature walks, we had cultural history tours, and that all had to shut down. So we really moved everything to be online, where we have these online tours. You can listen to, go on a nature walk at your home, or you can take your phone with you and go out on the trail and learn about the wildflowers, or the Ivy Talks went online. So we did a lot of that pivoting. We also took that opportunity to, when the barn opens up, which is like a mini museum for the family and the site, we redesigned the interpretive experience for the visitors. So we took that opportunity to, redesign some things I think people are really going to be excited to see.
All right, well, final question for you. And why don't so we're positive people. I can tell already that you, I said this in the beginning of the show, that you have this zest for life. You're smiling constantly. You obviously enjoy what you do. And I find you contagious to be around, and we're talking through a computer screen. So how about we closed on this? How fortunate we are to live in an area like this with so many options to enjoy and do something outside. We started the show with some insight, background on Biscuit Run. I love Walnut Creek. I love Preddy Creek. I love O Hill. I love going to your spot. We spent a lot of time outdoors. Maybe some personal perspective or some perspective that you've accumulated about how fortunate we are here in Central Virginia.
We are so lucky that we have these beautiful spots that, are free and open to the public, that people can visit every day of the year. I've, lived in different parts of the country where that isn't true.
Was that Detroit? Is that Detroit?
No, other parts.
Okay.
Yeah, Detroit has a lot of great resources for the outdoors as well. And so it's really been lucky. I think we are very lucky to learn about this natural site. And then, that it's also a cultural heritage site. We have a lot of great history in our back doors. In our backyards that, really pertain to the community, and we have to know our history so we can move forward. And so I feel really lucky that the Ivy Creek Natural Area is this wonderful balance of this incredible, beautiful natural site and then this cultural heritage that, everyone in our area needs to understand the incredible legacy of the Carr-Greer family and the impact they made in our community, that we are able to enjoy the fruits of their labor today.
You rock. I am going to keep your email and your contact information handy. I've thoroughly enjoyed these 20 minutes. And if you guys ever have anything where you want a call to action or some attention or an event or something that you need to get out to the public, please think of us. We will welcome you back anytime you anytime you want.
I love it. Thank you so much. Get ready, because it's going to happen, Jerry.
I'm ready. I wouldn't expect anything else. You have a good one, Sue.
Take care. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Be careful.
Sue's great. Sue is the executive director of the Ivy Creek Foundation. I'm going to get to Alex Urpí here in a matter of moments. Before I get to Alex Urpí, something about being outside, right? Something about being outside, whether hiking or walking or in a swimming hole or on a mountain bike or playing a racket sport, golf, basketball. Something about being outside really, I don't know about you guys, but it really resets me. The sunshine, getting a little sweat, getting some of that energy out, pent-up energy. And now the spring in Central Virginia, coming out of COVID, when we've been quarantining and inside more than we want, it's going to be a beautiful time for this community. A really, really beautiful time for Central Virginia. I think the remaining part of 2021. Judah Wickhauer, I'm going to reach out to our friend Alex Urpí. We'll talk markets. We'll talk inflation. We'll talk what could be a further divide between Wall Street and Main Street. Alex Urpí, good afternoon. I'm doing well, my friend. You said, so you say something all the time that resonates with me that I generally leave thinking about. I try to get a lot of people on the show that are way smarter than me. You embody that and just learn. Let's talk about what you said after Today y Mañana. And he hosts a show on the I Love CVille Network, co-hosts a show with Xavier, maybe Michael. It's called Today y Mañana. It's presented by Emergent Financial Services. You said after the show, the inflation we're dealing with is not a demand issue. Mm-hmm. Walk me through that.
So there's really it's basically there's two types of inflation, right? One is when there's too much money chasing too few goods. That's your classic definition, right? So that's, the economy is doing so well, you got all this money pumped in, people want to go spend it, and there's not enough goods, so the price goes up. What I think we're seeing here is rather different, because I don't think anybody would argue that the economy is back, over 100% back from COVID, such that we have this issue of too much demand. I think what we're seeing is a bit of a supply issue, in the sense of you have a lot of big companies, producers, that they're trying to churn out product, right, after having shut down their factories and reduced the size of their workforce. And because of the combination of the labor shortage and the difficulty of getting these things up and running again, they're having difficulty meeting the supply needs. And once that happens, the price goes up, because you have a shortage of supply and the price goes up. Because you look at last week we were talking about wood, we've talked about aluminum. You look at a lot of what we're seeing, and then you go back down the trail, and you start finding the articles. Oh, well, we can't turn out as much aluminum as we thought. Oh, the lumber companies aren't able to put out enough lumber because there's a shortage of workers in their industry. So you begin to look at it and you see that there's a supply issue, which on the one hand, that can show the kind of stringent, skyrocketing inflation that we've seen. That's how you get a 0.8% month to month increase in inflation. But I think on the flip side, that's what lends us to think that it may be more transitory, because once those supply issues get worked out, then you look back to the rest of the economy and say, is there really enough demand that I'm worried that we're going to be looking at inflation for 1, 2, 3 years down the road?
Which type of inflation is easier to manage or come out of or be successful upon?
So I would suspect it's typically the former, the supply side. And the reason I say that is, so supply side can be very dramatic when it happens. It can make things very difficult in the interim. But on the long term, you know what the solution is, in the sense of, we know that it's companies being able to restart the supply chains, getting people back into the labor force, being able to put out their product. The demand side's always trickier, because you now have the questions of, where do interest rates need to be? Is the Federal Reserve printing too much money? Is the United States government borrowing too much money? There's a lot of fiscal policy is what the government does. So that's stimulus packages, taxation, and then monetary policy is what the Federal Reserve does. So that's printing money, interest rates, and both of those impact the other side of inflation. So there's a lot more that goes into it, and a lot more of a lag. So people, I think, we often suspect that, like, when the Federal Reserve makes an interest rate decision, that the impact is instant. And for the stock market, it can be. The stock market reacts instantly, but the economy as a whole does not. You can sometimes go a year before you see the impact of a Federal Reserve decision. So that makes it really tough to be able to say, well, how much is too much? If interest rates need to go up a little, by the time I raise them 3 times, have I gone too far? If I've kept interest rates too low for too long, I may not know that for 1 to 2 years down the road. So that's a lot harder to deal with, just on a solution perspective.
I read an article this morning on CNBC on Walmart. And Walmart CEO Doug McMillon said customers want to get out and shop like they've never shopped before. I'll throw a statistic to you. Store traffic in Walmarts across the globe rose in April, which was the first increase in a year. When customers shopped, they tended to buy more as well. The average ticket at Walmarts across the world increased by 9.5% in the first quarter, even as overall transactions fell about 3%. So people are spending more money than they've ever spent before, and Walmart's confirming it. Its stock is green and upticking.
You're seeing that today.
Yeah.
The Walmart and the big retailers are up today, even though the market itself is wobbling.
Okay, that's where I was going to go. You got Target, you got Costco, you got Walmart, you got these big box brands that are up today, even though the market is, I'm looking at the screen right now, flat, we hope.
Flat today.
Yeah. What do you attribute the big box retailers upticking to? The removal of the mask?
Oh, I think it definitely is a large impact there. They like you said, they've had good earnings. So earnings are part of why they're up today, because the earnings have a picture for those companies has improved. But I think basically what happened last week is almost a free-for-all for them. Because Walmart was the first to come out and say, we will permit the vaccinated to not wear masks.
That's right.
But we will not ask you.
Right.
To prove that you are vaccinated.
Right.
So we all know that the honor system, I'm sure it'll work somewhat, but not perfectly. And it's just a very big boon for them, because they have been, Walmart's biggest competitor, of course, is Amazon. We often think of other retailers, but let's be real, the Walmart is so large, and their reach even online is so great, that their biggest competitor is Amazon. So this has pushed them a little further in that race, because for the past year, Amazon has dominated. Because you stay at home and you click that button and it comes to your door, no contact. So this enables people, I think, to go in there, and possibly also sends a message, I think it does, the one positive from last week, it does send somewhat of a safety message. It sends a message of, well, we've reached the point where if you are vaccinated, you should not fear going into a Walmart. In a sense, I feel like that's a major boon for them. The question is whether small retailers, small businesses will see the same kind of boom.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to go with this. Alex is brilliant. Walmart was first. As soon as Walmart says we're not going to require masks in our store, Costco, Trader Joe's, Chipotle, Starbucks, CVS, and Target immediately follow suit. Immediately follow suit after Walmart. Here's the question I'm going to ask you. Go anywhere you want with this. In the beginning of this pandemic, the government prioritized Walmart, Target, and big box brands, Lowe's, Home Depot. I said in the beginning of the pandemic, the most dangerous spot in Charlottesville, Virginia was the Lowe's on 29.
It was packed.
It was packed. Xavier's got a funny story about the Lowe's at 29 too. He said that on Today Beyond. I love Xavier. You know I do. Okay, so the beginning of the pandemic, the government prioritizes big box brands over the mom and pop retailers. That's clear cut what happened. Now as we're coming out of the pandemic, when the governor of Virginia at close of business Friday says you don't have to wear the mask, we're about to open up and release the hounds again, right? Does that not give a huge edge to the big box retailers and the big box businesses that are much better capitalized than the mom and pops? The mom and pops for the last 13 months have just been trying to figure out how to survive. And for the last 13 months, they've tried to perfect these COVID safety protocols that we've all asked them to do so we could go in and patronize their businesses and keep their lights on. Now, for example, in Virginia, Friday at close of business, the governor says, essentially, forget that, let's go. Yeah. And then the Walmarts can respond ASAP. Yeah, anywhere you want to go on this.
No, I think it does go to show that the one consistent throughout this whole pandemic in terms of our response to it has been, whether intentionally, I think some might argue intentionally or unintentionally, the prioritization of the needs of large businesses. It has been a boon for some very large companies, and they have been able to get away with things that the mom and pops just weren't able to. I mean, just even Friday, you looked at what happened, right? The masks went off instantly Friday, but the capacity restrictions were made until, I think, what is it, the end of this week?
Yeah, May 28th, I believe.
And we all know who's more heavily hit by percentage capacity restrictions.
Mom and pops.
Well, mom and pop, because their store is only a certain size. Right. And Walmart, if you say, well, you can only put 50%, 60% of people in a Walmart, well, that's fine. It's huge. We can still have tons of people coming in and out. Whereas sometimes in the downtown mall, you'll still see a mom and pop shop with like a line. I've seen like a line outside the door because they have to wait for one person to leave before another one comes in. And so you can sort of see what was prioritized in, okay, we can get rid of that restriction, but we'll leave this other one in there for another week or week and a half. So you can sort of see where that's going. And it is going to be challenging, and I think it's going to be challenging for small businesses to manage people's expectations, because there are people that expect more from a small business than they would from a Walmart.
Yes.
I think, and that's my fear, because I think Walmart, people just tend to have an idea, well, you just walk into a Walmart, you get what you need to do, you leave. And a small business, people don't expect, well, are you sanitizing still? Are you still letting too many people in the store? That people don't think twice of when they walk into a Walmart. Almost similar to what I've been saying since the beginning of the pandemic, where you could see which types of restaurants people instantly gravitated to the moment they had to do takeout. The first reaction wasn't, let me go to my local mom and pop who was at a sit-down restaurant and see if they're doing takeout. No,
it was
the first
Chipotle.
reaction you would see Chipotle.
Yeah, Chipotle's stock price boomed.
It boomed. Because people's first inclination was, well, if I'm going to do takeout, I'll do the place where I always do takeout. And so I think it's really on us as consumers just to be a little bit more aware and say, well, okay, I can't, it's already onerous enough on a small business owner. Let me not put any more onerous requirements on them that I'm not expecting from the big box retailers. Because already the game is rigged in favor of those large companies. We as consumers have to sort of do our part to sort of equalize things and make sure that we're treating our mom and pop shops the way we treat the large retailers, preferably better.
That was a phenomenal take, and I'm going to unpack some aspects of that take from Alex Urpí, CEO of Emergent Financial Services. First, what did you mean in the beginning of that take where you said the government either intentionally or unintentionally prioritized the big box brands?
Oh, I just think my suspicion has always been, people, I think, subconsciously, we always act what we think is in the perceived best interest of ourselves. And mom and pops, small business owners, I don't know about you, we don't have lobbyists in Washington that are saying, well, you can't do this, you have to watch out for my store, and the big companies do, right? And the big companies always have the additional resource, since they're publicly traded stocks, of the Federal Reserve coming in and calming them down, saying, don't worry, you can borrow at zero, and then reinvest in the markets, that kind of thing. So I think there's always a comfort level that the big companies backed by financial firms have that the mom and pops don't when you have lockdowns. And so my suspicion is that just when the government makes decisions, especially when it comes to the federal government, they're going to make decisions that are first best for the corporations that have a voice up there, and then they'll go down the line. And the mom and pops were sometimes last on that scale of priority.
The second thing I want to unpack is, and this is a human, there's no right answer to this. It's a human behavior, social behavior type of topic. You can have a man, a woman, a family, whatever it may be, a person, walk into a Walmart, a Lowe's, a Target, a Costco, now all mask-less environments. They can do their shopping, groceries, toiletries, clothes, whatever it may be, and they leave. They're fine with crowds, people without masks, not asking questions about sanitation, just going up and down the aisles as they've always done. Those same people go into a restaurant that's owned by someone in this community, and does this table clean? Why does that person not have their mask? Much more questioning, or much more distrusting, or much more police-esque. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they don't know who the person of accountability is at the local Walmart, but they do know who the people of accountability are at the local mom and pop?
I think just partly that. Partly, I think just I think as human beings, we tend to compartmentalize things. In other words, well, this I have to do so it's safe. This, I don't know, it might not be safe. I mean, we saw this very frequently. This was often a topic when it came to like houses of worship, in the sense that you would walk into a Walmart with a bunch of people, and then a house of worship would have like a 10% capacity restriction, and you would sit there and say, you're masked up and like you're literally 6 feet apart from everybody. You're probably safer actually in the place of worship than you are in the Walmart. But we just tend to compartmentalize things of saying, well, that doesn't sound safe. That one sounds like, well, I have no choice but to get my grocery shopping done. Whereas I do have a choice if I want to go to a restaurant or not. And I think just the pandemic and the shifting, just the shifting science, the shifting regulations and recommendations we get just adds so much confusion that people will just compartmentalize and say, well, all right, I have to do the grocery, don't have to do this, don't have to do that, and therefore I can't really worry about whether it's safe to do my grocery shopping, but I can worry about whether it's safe to go to a restaurant. And unfortunately, because, let's face it, a lot of mom and pop shops, when there are no mom and pop grocery, like essential qualified businesses, a lot of them have been driven out by the Walmarts. So what you have left with a lot of small business owners is what you call like retail, things you really enjoy, but don't necessarily like need to survive. You don't have to go to a restaurant to live. Whereas at some point you got to buy groceries somewhere, from a Walmart, a Trader Joe, a Whole Foods, a Kroger, to survive. So I think part of the challenge there is that so many small businesses have gravitated to retail, just in terms of, I don't want to call it luxury, but have a good life, like enjoy specialization and things that people put their passion into, making paper products on the downtown mall, or stationery stores, card stores, restaurants are the big one, obviously, and they put so much passion into that. But when something like a lockdown comes in, that's not the first place people go. Just the first place people go is, well, if I'm scared to go out, I'm only ever going to go to a grocery store, and there aren't a lot of mom and pop grocery stores left.
This guy is bright. Alex Urpí, CEO of Emergent Financial Services. Final question, and then let us know what's going on with Today y Mañana on Thursday, because you got big plans here.
Absolutely.
What is your prediction for the Central Virginia economy for the rest of 2021?
Rest of 2021? I mean, I do feel pretty optimistic, I have to say.
Is that because you're an optimistic guy by nature? Or do you actually are, because you are an optimistic guy by nature. You're a glasses half full guy.
I'm a little bit optimistic by nature. But I just looking, the reason I feel the way is that I feel finally the messaging has matched what I think is the facts on the ground. Because part of what makes me optimistic is obviously Central Virginia is, like I said last week, over 50% vaccinated, at least Albemarle County. I should clarify, Albemarle County, Charlottesville, over 50% vaccinated. So that lends to the level of comfort that people have to go out. Now add to it that I think the messaging coming from people in charge is matching that fact and saying, yes, you can feel safe again. Doesn't mean you have to take no precautions. I mean, we should never go back to like not washing your hands or anything like that. But it's good to see the messaging saying like, yes, this fact is good. It's good that over half the county is vaccinated. And to make, you should feel safe about that. You should feel safe to go to these places, particularly, I mean, if you are vaccinated. You should feel safe to do this. And I think having the messaging now match that will provide a lot of consumer confidence. And I think going forward, I think as that happens, maybe we still need to get some of the messaging right in terms of the labor shortage part, what needs to happen to really encourage people to go back to work to solve that labor problem. And I think as long as we in Central Virginia have a lot of patience, I mean, don't be going to restaurants and getting mad because it's taking a little longer. Think about the fact that it is a good chance the person who owns this restaurant is in the back.
Yeah, they got half their staff.
They can't find, exactly, because they can't find the staff. So patience, being kind, being understanding of what small business owners are still going through, because a lot of the help that they received was loans. So they're still paying off some loans. It's not as though everything was free money that flowed into small business owners. So they're still paying back some of these loans. They still have a long way to go. And there's a lot of headwinds still against them. But as long as we're patient and we get that confidence back, I do think Central Virginia is in a really good spot just coming out of this.
Better than the last 6 months of 2019?
Oh, that's tough. I'm not sure we're 100% back yet to that. Part of what I'm hoping is that sort of the pent up of not having done anything for a year will really sort of explode at some point, and people will really just feel super confident to go up. That's my hope. Maybe that's my optimistic
too.
nature.
That's my hope too, Alex. Gosh, I hope that's the case.
It's so hard to judge human behavior, but you just trust that people. One thing I will say is this community, I think, really does care about, like, consumers really do care about the small businesses here. And I think that's a big plus that not everywhere has.
Amen, brother. Amen. Today y mañana on Thursday.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have, on the one hand, it's going to be all about entrepreneurship on Thursday. First, Xavier and I, we are going to talk a little bit about ESG because we've had some great questions about environmental, social governance investing.
Was that Vanessa Parkhill's question?
From Vanessa
And she's
Parkhill.
watching right now. Vanessa Parkhill, your question's coming up Thursday at 10:15.
You're going to get to your question right at the open with Today Mañana. Xavier and I are going to answer that question. This is a great question. And then we're going to have on an entrepreneur who's Lexi Hutchins. She just opened Morehouse Studio. It's a pottery studio here in Charlottesville. So talk about like really things that he knows. He just started it beginning of this year.
Wow.
So we're talking someone who started in the pandemic, not like just right before. Starting it, going from, and so many great stories coming out of pottery classes, learning to work with your hands. So we'll talk entrepreneurship starting in the midst of this. And then we're going to talk a little bit with, his name is Andrew, and he's with the Code Building, the Center of Developing Entrepreneurs. So we're gonna ask him a little bit about what's up with that building, because I mean I've seen it coming up, and I feel like I could learn more. What's up there? What are they going to do for entrepreneurs in the community? How are they going to react being such a big space? Will they help retail? Will they, how will they work with the community that's here? So we'll ask him some of those questions and get his thoughts on that. So I think it'll be two sides of entrepreneurship in the community, one from an entrepreneur and one from a space that hopefully will help encourage some entrepreneurs.
Dude, that show is going to be amazing. 10:15 on Thursday, Emergent Financial Services, Xavier and Alex Urpí on this network. Vanessa Parkhill, right out of the gates, they're going to ask you that question, or answer that question that you asked. Thank you for passing that along to us. My friend, I will see you on Thursday.
Yep, see you. It's been a pleasure. Have a good one.
Say hi to everybody.
Will do. Say hi to Judah.
Oh, Judah says hello. He's listening. He says hello. Judah says hello, and he's smiling. You got Judah to smile. Bye, Alex.
There you go. Have a good one.
Judah Whitcower is our director. I like that guy a lot. Judah. I like Alex Urpí quite a bit. He's a good guy. he really brings some good ammunition to the show. The Code building is the old ice park. Joffrey Woodruff owns the Code building, the hedge fund titan who's across the street from me right now. And Joffrey's the hedge fund founder and titan behind QIM. He bought the ice park, and he's going to utilize the ice park for the Center of Developing Entrepreneurs Code. Some of the businesses that he's invested in will be housed in this building. This building is going to have built-in efficiencies like an accountant there, a CPA, an attorney, people that can help a bunch of businesses from a back-end infrastructure, all located under one roof, vertical integration. Bill Chapman, who is the co-owner of the CVille Weekly, Bill Chapman also owns Oakhurst Inn on Jefferson Park Avenue. He is one of the, I guess you would call him, upper management for the Code building. And he posted a couple of days ago, about 6 days ago in fact, he said, I have an opportunity for an experienced person or team to run a high-end turnkey coffee wine bar in the lobby of the Code building downtown, opens at the end of August. Flexible financial arrangement for the right operator who brings sophisticated offerings to this marquee project. And then he put the phone number in. So this building is going to be pretty dynamic. I mean, coffee shop, wine bar, home to a lot of people, offices to a lot of big businesses and people. If you check the downtown skyline, you'll certainly notice the building. I think it's going to be beautiful, the renderings I've seen. I think it's going to be a great addition to the mall. Coming out of COVID, if we can get more folks working in these 8 blocks that are the heartbeat of the city, the downtown mall, it's going to be good for all the businesses that are around the mall. The businesses downtown, they have the customers Thursday and Friday and Saturday. It's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays that determine really true profit success for a lot of these businesses on the downtown mall. Good show, Judah Wickhauer. I'm very grateful for you being a part of this program. I want to thank Sue and Alex. Keith Smith says he has treats for Liza the dog from Patty Zeller. Oh, and he also has the restroom key in his pocket. Keith Smith, there he is right there with the restroom key. He's outside. We have a locked hallway key. Kelly Lewis, thank you for joining us. And he's got treats for Eliza. Keith Smith's the star of Real Talk. I love that guy. Kelly Lewis, welcome to the show. Love when you watch the program as well. That's the program. Great day to be alive here in Central Virginia. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. You guys have a good afternoon. Take care. He's got the keys over there.